Your tie looks so nice. I want to make sure I look good. It's good color coordination. I like it. Spot on.
You guys going to cue me?
We're at 30 seconds for you. Start whenever you want.
Okay. I'm going to call this meeting of the October 3rd, 2019 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for attending tonight. We're going to begin with a roll call. Vice Chair Jay Outluski.
Present.
Secretary Brian Patterson.
Present.
Member Sean Hutchinson.
Present.
Member Linda Grice.
Present.
Member Clay Alsop.
Present.
Member Joanna Condi.
Present.
And alternate member Tony Fighter.
Present.
Very good. We have everybody here, and I want to begin now with an opening statement that we begin all meetings with. You know, Chris, I know City Council has a lovely video they play at the beginning. I think the mayor has it figured out. When are we going to get one of those is what I'd like to know.
When I move up the term.
Is that how this works? You're waiting for me to move on to the... I gotcha. All right. Fair enough. All right, the opening statement. The commission is composed of Peoria citizens who've been appointed to the City Council to serve on the commission as a civic responsibility without compensation. Our duty is to study and review planning and zoning issues within the city of Peoria. The commission hears zoning cases, holds public hearings, or may conduct a study session on a topic. Decisions made by the commission are forwarded as written recommendations to the City Council, who take the final action. All hearings are conducted in accordance with the rules for procedures and Robert's Rules of Order. Each case will be called in the order in which it appears on the agenda unless otherwise announced during the meeting. In the interest of maintaining a fair and efficient hearing, the commission adheres to the following steps. Chair will open the case. City staff will then provide a brief report and recommendation. The applicant is then invited to give a presentation. Then any member of the public may provide testimony. Public testimony is limited to 3 minutes. When we call your name, please come up to the podium and provide your name and address. After all the testimony has been taken, we will invite the applicant back up to provide any rebuttal or final statements. The commission will then discuss the case and make its decision. Excuse me. Anyone wishing to speak must complete a speaker's request form and hand it to the commission assistant out in the audience, raising your hand. Please be as brief as possible and do not repeat statements already made by others. Any member of the public may appeal to the City Council the decision of the commission regarding a conditional use permit. The appeal must be submitted in writing to the Planning and Community Development Department within 15 calendar days of the date of the commission's decision. All commission recommendations on public hearing items, including general plan amendments, rezone, zoning code amendments, and special plans, move forward to a regular City Council meeting. The City Council will then act on the recommendation of the commission. The City Council may concur with the decision, modify it, overturn it, or remand it back to the commission for further consideration. We welcome citizens' comments, and as fellow citizens of Peoria, we thank you in advance for your participation. And this is the final call to submit speaker request forms. Please turn those in if you'd like to speak. We're going to move on next to the consent agenda. I believe we have 3 items on the consent agenda tonight. Item 1C is disposition of absence, discussion and possible action to approve, excuse the absences of Commissioner Clay Alsop and Commissioner Linda Grice from the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting held on September 19th, 2019. 2C is the minutes, discussion and possible action to approve the minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting held on September 19th, 2019. And the final item under consent is 3C, Modern Mods LLC Conditional Use Permit CU 19-08. This is a request to obtain a conditional use permit to allow a tattoo and body piercing studio at 16610 North 75th Avenue, Suite 106. Any commissioners have any questions or comments about the consent agenda before us tonight? right, may I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second on the table. Please vote by, please say aye to approve if you
Aye.
support the motion.
Joanna Conde, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any nays?
Okay.
None opposed? All right, it passes. Boy, you get spoiled a little bit by that electronic thing, don't you? All right, we're going to move on now to our regular agenda, and we're going to start with item 4R, Administrative Relief, Zoning Ordinance Text Amendment Case TA19-02. This is a request to consider city-initiated text amendment to Section 21-102, Conflicting Regulations, and Section 21-324, known as Administrative Relief of the Zoning Ordinance. As I understand it, staff has recommended that we continue this item to the October 17th, 2019 meeting. Is that correct?
Chairman Nelson, that is correct. Apologies for asking for an additional continuance, but staff has worked hard to engage with the property owners within the subdivisions that we believe would be most impacted by the text amendment. And one of the property owners was unable to make this meeting and requested that it be moved so he could attend. And so we've requested that it be moved to the October 17th public hearing.
Fantastic. Okay. Any questions from commissioners before I call for the vote? All right, may I have a motion to continue this item to the October 17th, 2019 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to continue this to the 17th.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? My motion passes unanimously. All right, we'll move on to our next item, which is 5R, 2019 Major General Plan Amendment, Plan Peoria AZ General Plan GPA 19-03, a city-initiated major amendment to the general plan to comprehensively update the Peoria General Plan in preparation for voter ratification in the fall of 2020, and to ensure the plan remains consistent with the overarching goals of the city. Staff, please present your report.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, Lori Deaver back before you. This is the formal announcement, if you will. I know you've seen this before, but we are formally asking and setting the case out this evening for your consideration. It is the 2019 Major General Plan Amendment. For the first couple slides, I will do some background information, if you will, although we don't have a ton of people in the audience, we do have people that will see us online. It's always good to go quickly, kind of do a little bit of education, and then we'll get into the meat of the matter this evening. So what is a general plan? It establishes the vision and the guidance for current and future development. And I also have the Arizona quick facts, if you will, just for a refresher. Arizona in particular has had a general plan for each and every county and municipality, if you will, since the 1970s, and those typically consisted of land use and circulation. We are one of the last states, I believe the only state, that still requires our general plan to go out to the voters every 10 years. They have to ratify our general plans. In the 1990s, we were experiencing pretty heavy growth, and so we had two forms of legislation that impact what we do for general plan amendments. The first one is Growing Smarter and Growing Smarter Plus. You'll see some of that impact this evening in the terms of enhanced notification, the requirements, actually why we are sitting off-site at this particular location this evening. That is a state law requirement. And it also dictates how many topics that we need to cover, and that's based on the actual population within the county or within the municipality. For a city of our size, we are required to have 17 topics within there. And also within that legislation, we needed to clearly define what a minor and a major amendment is. And so the case being presented to you this evening is a major general plan amendment, which has certain process requirements, which I'll talk about briefly. So as I noted, there is a significant or an enhanced amount of public outreach that goes into every major general plan amendment. When we were bringing this forward, Once we had and went through our public outreach process, which I'll cover this evening into some amount of depth, we created a draft amendment, and that was circulated with what we call a comment period or the 60-day review. That is a state law requirement that agencies with any alphabet soup have at least 60 days to review, provide comments and feedback to the city so that they could weigh in as to what the amendments that we were proposing. We've taken the time after that comment period has ended to review those comments and make updates to the draft, and I'll cover briefly what we did for this process. And then finally, as we're here tonight, we start a public hearing process. As the chairman mentioned, this is a non-action item this evening. It is solely for public testimony. We are required to have 2 public meetings in front of council. The first one in an off-site location. The second one, we will be asking for a recommendation. It then goes to City Council for their consideration. So unlike minor general plan amendments where it's just one P&Z meeting to City Council, this one as a major always requires 2 P&Z meetings. So let's get into the heart of the matter. So the actual case before you is GPA 1903, otherwise known as Plan Peoria AZ. It is a comprehensive update. We are looking to go out for voter ratification in 2020. So we are getting ready or in preparation for that. This actual major amendment is city initiated. Major amendments can be both privately initiated and city initiated. This one in particular is brought to you by staff. This has been a multi-year effort, and I will show you just the impact of how many times we've been in front of you this evening, and I think you will be surprised or not, because you've seen me talking about this quite a bit. The actual document builds on the work that we completed in 2018 and takes it a step further, and it really is a true adjustment to the general plan. But we're still not done, as we've talked about, because we are looking forward to 2020 and we're still in listening mode. And so we will continue to refine the plan. We do expect some changes as we go along, and we'll keep you abreast of those changes. But tonight, we're presenting to you what we think right now is our best draft. I would like to do kind of a shout out to the core project team. What you see is planning staff on there, as well as our consultant, Matrix Design Group. I wish I could put everybody on there because it has been a citywide, city department effort. And so if I were to put the names on there, you wouldn't be able to see how many people have participated within this process. Every single department we have heard from. People have come out in thousands. We've heard from thousands of people actually throughout this entire process, and it's been positive, and that's unusual because usually when you have that many people for something of a zoning related item, they're usually not happy. But in this case, the feedback has been positive. We've appreciated the interaction, and we've gotten some really good direction from our boards and commissions, our GPAC members, from our residents, our business owners, from pretty much everybody in particular, and city staff time and time again to make those adjustments. So it really, although you see the core team, if I could, I'd put everybody up there, but I can't. So, but a shout out to the group here. So the vision statement, this is one of the first things that has changed. And so I just wanted to take a moment to read it. In 2040, which is kind of a pretty good horizon out there because we're looking, about 20 years out. So in 2040, Peoria is a safe, connected, engaged, vibrant, and livable community that emphasizes fiscal responsibility and thoughtful growth to ensure a healthy city for all citizens. Those key words came directly out of our community outreach. And some of those, and one in particular, which I'll showcase now, fiscal sustainability. And I was joking with City Council when we were doing a study session, but in my 20 years of planning, fiscal sustainability is not something that you hear from residents. That message has resonated from City Council, from leadership, and it has resonated with our residents and our business community. And to hear that from a community outreach standpoint is amazing. It's one of the few vision statements that I've ever seen that actually has that as one of the values that we appreciate and want to continue forward enough to put it within a vision statement. But that's not the only key theme that we've had throughout this document. And community wellness, because the city recognizes the health of our community directly impacts our ability to provide city services and the type of city services that we provide. So as we can influence our built environment and our residents' built environment, that impacts the fiscal, the bottom line, if you will, of the city. So it is a kind of a symbiotic relationship in that regard. Placemaking is an often used term within planning, but we know Peoria is a place of distinction. We want to continue to enhance it as a place of distinction. And so we're looking at key design items within the general plan on how to make that happen. I've already talked about fiscal sustainability. The next one is building on strategic relationships. We know we're not going to achieve and be the city we want to be without help from agencies, HOAs, from our regional partners. It is a collaborative relationship. We understand that, we recognize it, and we want to acknowledge that within the general plan. And one of the last items is resilient, adaptable, and forward thinking. Change happens. We're looking at 20 years out. We need to incorporate technology where it's appropriate. We need to adapt to the environmental conditions as they change. We need to be resilient if there is an emergency situation. So that was one of the other key aspects that we included within this particular plan. From a deliverable standpoint, what you see in terms of reorganization of the document, the city has chosen to have not only the 17 topics required by the state, we've added 5 more, and we've encapsulated those into 6 themes. We've also added an introduction and an implementation chapter as well, because just because you have goals and policies doesn't mean anything. You need an action plan in order to execute them. So we have reformulated the document to get out of the silo effect and treat things as a holistic pattern. And you will start to see these particular themes throughout all the documentation that you will see within the city. If you were to look in last year or this current year's budget, you will see these themes mentioned in that budget book. It all ties back to the city council priorities and how operations impacts the general plan, its goal and its place as a framework and a policy document, tying these together so that as a citizen and a resident, what you see on a daily basis, you can make the connection from start to finish. One of the other things that we have done is update the land use categories. Typically, that would not excite anybody except for planners and perhaps the development community. But we think it's a welcome change because we have provided more specificity in terms of the character that we're looking for within our residential communities. We've expanded our horizons to allow more mixed use to invigorate our commercial areas. We have kind of redefined in the ability as like makerspace. We can encourage entrepreneurship because now we have land use categories that are robust enough in order to include those types of uses without putting up barriers, if you will. So that is actually one of the biggest benefits of this particular general plan. Because of those categories, we have a brand new land use map, and this has been a painstaking process from city staff to go through square mile. And we've done it over and over and over again, at least a good 4 to 6 times. Cody wishes he had the time back, but over 250 roughly square miles that we have gone through to modify and update the land use map as you see. We also dusted off the goals and the policies within this document to ensure that as we're moving forward, they were where they needed to be and incorporated new items as we wanted to. So, and the last item is a general plan has to be compliant with state law. At the end of the day, we got to meet Arizona state law. And so we wanted to ensure, as you can see with this table, how we were going to execute it with our topics. Community outreach. This is, like I said, it's been a multi-year project. We've had a significant number of workshops. We've had 2 sets of workshops, but that equated to 4 meetings. We've had online surveys. We had over 1,000 participants in just one of those surveys alone. We've been in front of the youth for outreach. We've heard from them. We've had pop-up events, special events, where we've gone out and kind of like meet a planner and, kind of tell us what you're thinking and where you think the city wants to be. We've had advisory groups made up of our boards and commissions, of which several of you have participated on. And we've also had staff in a technical capacity weigh in as well. Project updates, amazing amount of project updates. And I want to give a shout out to the Office of Communications that have done a wonderful job in putting this in the news on both the social side, the print media, and everything else. Utility billing and everything else. They have been a wonderful asset in getting the word out so that we could hear back from our residents to make this plan as good as it is. So I wasn't joking about the number of meetings, by the way. So this just shows you from April. And if you will look, you will see at least 2 to 3 meetings in which we were in front of somebody for this particular general plan. And so I do want to point out, in total, we had 8 boards and commissions updates in just from April to September, end of September. And we thank you for that time and the ability and your feedback as well. But we're still not done, because tonight we're at a public hearing. Again, our Office of Communications. We did a website. People could download the document. They could provide us comments on the land use map that we provided interactive. Those comments are actually in your packet. And they could, if they had questions on the text of the document, they could fill out a form and send it to us, and we receive those emails directly. So let's talk about comments received. So from an agency standpoint, we received 1 letter, and that was from the City of Surprise, and that was basically just talking about continued collaboration, because we did work with them on a number of circulation plan changes in particular that were reflected both in the 2018 update and in the 2019 update as well. In terms of map questions, those are in your packet, and we had a request for a possible modification to the land use map, which I'll talk about briefly. In terms of text comments, some of those that you'll see in your packet, we've made modifications to. There were some typos, there were some grammatical errors. We tried to correct those as best as possible. And based on those comments, we went back and made some refinements to the land use category. In terms of map updates, one request in particular asked for a land use modification near our Pioneer Park area. It did come in relatively late in terms of where it was at within the process. At this point in time, with the information provided, staff is not ready to recommend or make that modification to the land use map. There's additional refinement and analysis that needs to occur before we can recommend that to Commission and Council. So we have opted at this point not to include that map change within the document. With that being said, a couple people pointed out we had some boundary errors on our land use map in terms of like different projects. We made those. Circulation plan. In terms of circulation map adjustments, we've been working with both state land and a private entity near what we call Bard Ranch. Through collective conversation, we've made adjustments to both their land use categories and the circulation, working collectively with those two entities. And the active transportation network. It was a pedestrian bicycle plan, and when we added the trails back on, it is a plethora of connection, if you will, now. So it is a more robust map on that one. And those were the mapping updates. So this evening, as I mentioned, we're here to gather public testimony. There's no action. I have the pleasure of being back before you on the 17th, at which time I will be asking for a recommendation. I believe there may be one or two adjustments to the packet, and I will cover those at that point in time and give you an update during the meeting. And it goes for November 12th for City Council for consideration and for either approval or denial. So for tonight, Mr. Chairman, I would recommend that we have a public hearing only and no action being taken, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Deaver. Excellent report. Any commissioners have any questions or comments regarding what we just heard?
Yeah, I guess just a comment. Had the privilege of being through one of these in Wall Lake, Michigan when I was younger on the P&Z. And I have to say this has been handled much different. And I have to say you guys have done an awesome job of communication I don't want to say overthinking it, but overdoing it actually. You've given more information than we probably really needed even, and it's a good thing. So I didn't mean that as a bad thing, but I just want to basically compliment all the staff and the people involved because it's an amazing report.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I'd like to say that, many people who are maybe watching don't realize how exceptional this report is. I mean, it's detailed, it's been back and forth. I was here 30 years ago, let me tell you, it was nothing like this. And it took an awful lot of thought in going out and looking at things, not only just doing it, at your desk, but actually I know that you've driven many areas to see where things are, where they actually are, rather than say, oh yeah, it looks like this, or using a Google map. It takes a serious amount of time and effort to make sure that this is a community that meets your vision. And a lot of other communities have not done that. And I mean, there are 23 municipalities, I believe, in Maricopa County. That's an awful lot. And I think that we are really ahead of the curve in planning. And at least I'm proud to say we have a fabulous staff for P&Z. It makes our work very easy. And I don't think the citizens really can appreciate how much effort and conscientious thought goes into this. So I commend you.
Thank you. I concur. Any other comments? Yes, Commissioner Price.
I would just like to say I've had a lot of opportunity to read general plans over the past 30 years. And this is probably one of the cleanest, nicest, thorough, and definitive plans that I've ever had the opportunity to read. It's very impressive, and it makes me excited to see what's going to be happening in Peoria and the direction that the staff is able to provide across the city for this whole document to be put together and made cohesive so that it really fits together and works as a tool, a compass to guide where the city will be growing. And I'm very excited to see how this is going to work out. And I just would like to echo with the rest of the commissioners, thank you for all of the hard work on this. And I know it's been very, very time consuming and a lot of revisions, and I'm sure a lot of late nights thinking about what needs to be revised and what needs to go on here. And we all appreciate it, and I think the entire city is appreciative of the hard work that's gone on to make this plan come together.
Thank you. Any other comments? Thank you. I concur. Great work. It's just another reason to be proud to live in Peoria. All right, I'm going to open the public hearing now since there's no further questions or comments. I don't have any speaker request forms. Have we received any? No. All right. Would any members of the public like to speak on this item? Going once, twice. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. And as was mentioned, this is a presentation only. We're not to take any action tonight. With that, I think we're going to move on to our next item. All right. All right, thank you very much. All right, the next is the call to the public, and this is where we give you the chance to speak on non-agenda items. Is there anyone? I haven't received any speaker request forms for this either. Okay. Is there anybody who would like to speak on any non-agenda items in the audience? Going once? Going twice? All right. Next item is updates from staff. Does staff have anything to report beyond what we've heard tonight?
Mr. Chair, just a few things. I do want to, thank you for your very kind comments on the general plan update. We really appreciate it. We appreciate your guidance during the process. It's truly been a huge effort. Lori named a number of key staff in the project. There's been a lot of people involved, but Lori's been involved quite a bit on this project. I know would like to get some weekends back, and maybe she will, and maybe we can work that out. Right, but we're very proud about the way the project has gone and the product that we have in us. We're very excited for the future. In terms of the meetings that are coming up, our next meeting will be on October 17th. At that point, as we mentioned, that we'll be looking for a vote on a recommendation on the general plan. We'll also be providing you an update on the census activities. So we're now getting involved with the special events as the weather is starting to turn. So we're going to be promoting census activities. We'll give you a full update on activities at the state, regional, and local levels on that. So look for that on the next meeting. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you very much. Any updates from staff? I'm sorry, excuse me. Any updates from the Planning and Zoning Commission? Any commissioners have anything they want to report out tonight? All right, seeing no further business, I call this meeting adjourned.